I'm Greg Peterson, co-founder of the Robert Jackson Center, and hopefully you all know you are here for the requiem on the death of Abraham Lincoln, a Whitman masterpiece, When Lilacs Last and the Dooryard Bloomed. If you're not here for that, we'll give you 2 seconds to leave, okay? You're in for a treat. You're in for a treat. I've known Paul in many instances, and many of them right here. He's given stories, he's done recitations, he's talked about Jackson, he's talked about through a variety of sources. He has been a presence here. So when he suggested that perhaps we could do this program, immediately jumped on the opportunity. For those that don't know all about Paul and his background, you know he's a writer, a storyteller with a concentration on Western New York, particularly its history. Author of 7 books, 3 of them fiction, including the popular Chautauqua Ghosts, and photo history around Chautauqua Lake. Short story collections includes The Horse Fiddle. I think within that is the discussion regarding Grant here in this building, President Grant. And if you missed it, you can see it on YouTube. And talks about a variety of things in the Horse Fiddle. As a lover and practitioner of the spoken word, working to make the practice an art form. And that really makes Paul unique. Paul is very, very unique, and he's in his almost one of one to be able to have command of the King's English and to use it in the form of which he is concentrating. Speaking of concentration, it's been most recently on poetry recitations and is in the process of completing a volume of sonnets motivated by those of Shakespeare. He says this will be published once he matches the number written by Shakespeare, 154. And the last thing, in case you're wandering around Lakeview Cemetery most any time, you may in fact see not apparitions, but in fact Paul Leone. Today, Paul is going to present something really extraordinary, and I look forward to it. Paul Leone.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Ed Tomasini. Thank you, Fenton History Center. All of you have supported this program. So I thank you, and I thank you all for coming here tonight. All right. So we are here to remember the anniversary of Lincoln's death 159 years ago. Also, we are here to admire the poetry of Walt Whitman. And so a lot of you, I believe, are familiar with the Lilacs poem. Maybe some of you have read the poem before coming here tonight and been perplexed. I will certainly put the poem in context before delivering the poem. But what I would like to do is to recite an additional poem, an earlier poem of Whitman's on the same theme. Now, I think I would say that the most sublime of Whitman's themes is the relationship between love and death. And you will hear that come out in a powerful way in the Lilacs poem. What I will do is recite an earlier poem, a poem with a very intriguing first line, which only if you are very sort of literary-minded people you may have heard of or read and been even more perplexed. The first line of that poem is, "Out of the cradle, endlessly rocking." Curious to know if any of you are familiar with that poem in any way. Okay, Marlon, sure. So what I need to do is to spend some time directing your imaginations. Otherwise, you may be lost in what's going on in the poem. So I will try to tell you exactly what is going on in the surface of the poem. This poem is a reminiscence, and Whitman will say in the poem that it is a reminiscence. This is a poem where Whitman, as an adult, is looking back on himself as a child and remembering the moment when, as a child, he knew he was a poet. And he knew what he was going to be writing about. Love and death, a mystical relationship between love and death. You can see it with the death of Lincoln and the poem. You will see that the relationship. And in this cradle poem, it is the relationship, the love and death occurs between two mockingbirds. So Whitman grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and he had a family homestead. His grandfather's, I believe it was his grandfather's homestead on the North Shore of Long Island. Those of you who are familiar with Long Island will particularly like the setting of this poem. So as a child, the young Whitman would go down to the sea, to the shore, and observe a pair of mating mockingbirds. I don't know how many of you have had the wonderful experience of hearing a mockingbird sing out. Mockingbirds are not common to our area, although they may be as global warming continues. Mockingbirds are common more to the south, although I have seen a mockingbird on Long Island. So what's going on here is Whitman discovers this mating pair of mockingbirds, travels down repeatedly to the shore, to the shoreline, to watch them, to observe them, and Whitman translates the song, the sound of the mockingbirds into English. That is in his poem. A large part of this poem is Whitman's, the words of the mockingbird through Whitman. In the Lilac poem, there is the same sort of thing, which I will mention when we get there. So the word Palmanic, anybody know that word? What's that word? Yeah, that's the word, that's the name Whitman uses for Long Island. It is an Indian name. So you will hear that name and you will know that that means Long Island in this poem. Now, I don't want you to get too flummoxed during the recitation of this poem, particularly in the beginning. You might be wondering what's going on here in the beginning of this poem. But it's all about memory. And it's all about Whitman looking back at himself as a young man, I'd say an adolescent, maybe 13, 14, 15. And there are two voices in the poem. There's the voice of Whitman as a grown man remembering, and there's the voice of the mockingbird. What happens in this poem is the young Walt is watching these mockingbirds. He sees the nest. He's very careful not to disturb them. One day when he goes down there, the female is no longer there. And the female never shows up. And so the words of the mockingbird translated are the mockingbird's grief, calling out over the ocean, looking for his mate, grieving for her loss. All right, any questions? Okay. Out of the cradle, endlessly rocking, out of the mockingbird's throat, the musical shuttle, out of the 9-month midnight, over the sterile sands and the fields beyond, where the child, leaving his bed, wandered alone, bareheaded, barefoot, down from the showered halo, up from the mystic play of shadows, twining and twisting as if they were alive, out from the patches of briars and blackberries, from the memory of the bird that chanted to me, from your memory, sad brother, from the fitful risings and fallings I heard from under that yellow half-moon, late risen and swollen as if with tears, from those beginning notes of yearning and love in the mist, from the 1,000 responses of my heart, never to cease, from the myriad thence aroused words, from the word stronger and more delicious than any, from such as now they start the dream revisiting, as a flock twittering, rising, or overhead passing, borne hither, ere all eludes me, hurriedly, a man, yet by these tears a little boy again, throwing myself on the sand, confronting the waves, I, chanter of pains and joys, uniter of here and hereafter, taking all hints to use them, yet swiftly, leaping beyond them, a reminiscence sing. Once palmatic, when the lilac scent was in the air, and 5th-month grass was growing, up this seaside, in some briars, 2 feathered guests from Alabama, 2 together, and their nest, and 4 light green eggs spotted with brown. And every day the he-bird, to and fro, near at hand, and every day the she-bird crouched on her nest, silent with bright eyes. And every day I, a curious child, never too close, never disturbing them, cautiously listening, recording, translating. Shine, 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 pour down your warmth, great sun, while we bask, we two together, winds blow south or winds blow north, day come white or night come black, home or rivers and mountains from home, singing all time, minding no time, as we two keep together. till of a sudden may be killed, unknown to her mate. One forenoon the she-bird crouched not on her nest, nor returned that afternoon, nor ever appeared again. And thenceforward in the sound of the sea, or at night under the full of the moon in calmer weather, over the hoarse surging of the sea, or flitting from briar to briar by day, I saw, I heard at intervals, the remaining one, the solitary guest from Alabama. Blow, 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 blow up sea winds along Balmanic's shore. I wait, and I wait, till you blow my mate to me. Yes, when the stars glistened, or at night on the prong of a moss-scalloped stake, down almost beneath the slapping waves, sat the lone singer, wonderful, causing tears. He called on his mate. He poured forth the meanings which I, of all men, know. Yes, my brother, I know. The rest might not, but I have treasured every note. For more than once, dimly, down to the sea gliding, avoiding the moonbeams, blending myself with the shadows, I saw, I heard, at intervals the remaining one, the he-bird, the solitary guest from Alabama. Soothe, 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 close upon its wave, soothe the wave behind, and another again behind, embracing and lapping, every one close. But my mate soothes not me, not me. Low hangs the moon. It rose late. It is lagging. Oh, I think it is heavy with love. With love, oh, madly the sea pushes upon the land with love. With love. Oh, night, do I not see my mate fluttering out among the breakers? What is that little black spot I see there in the white? Loud, 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 loud I call to you, my love. High and clear I shoot my voice over the waves. Surely you must know who is here, is here. You must know who I am, my love. Land, land, oh land, whichever way I look, oh, I think you could give me my mate back again, if you only would. For I am almost sure I see her dimly, whichever way I turn. Oh, rising stars, perhaps the one I want so much will rise with some of you. Oh, throat, O trembling throat, shout clearer through the atmosphere, pierce the woods, the fields, for somewhere listening to catch you must be the one I want. Shake out carols, solitary hear the night's carols, carols of lonesome love, death's carols, carols under that waning yellow lagging moon, O reckless, despairing carols. But soft, sink low, and do you not murmur, you husky-voiced sea? For somewhere I believe I hear my mate responding to me. So faint, I must be still to listen. But not altogether still, for then she might not come immediately to me. Hither, my love, here I am, here. With this just sustained note, I announce myself to you. This gentle call is for you, my love, for you. Oh, do not be decoyed elsewhere. That whistle is the wind. It is not my voice. That is the fluttering of the spray. Those are the shadows of leaves. Oh, darkness. Oh, in vain. Oh, I am very sick and sorrowful. Oh, brown halo in the night, near the moon, drooping unto the sea. Oh, troubled reflection in the sea. Oh, throat. Oh, throbbing heart. And I singing uselessly all the night. Oh, past. Oh, happy life. Oh, songs of joy in the air, in the woods, over fields. Loved, 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 loved. But my mate no more with me. We two together no more. The aria sinking, all else continuing. The stars shining, the wind blowing, the notes of the bird continuous echoing with the angry moans of the fierce old mother incessantly moaning on the sands of Palmanic's shore, gray and rustling. The young man ecstatic with his hair. The child ecstatic with his bare feet the waves, with his hair the atmosphere, dallying. The love in the heart long pent, now loosed, now tumultuously bursting. The aria's meaning, the ears, the soul, swiftly depositing, the strange tears down the cheeks coursing, the colloquy there, each loving, the undertone, the savage old mother incessantly crying, to the boy's soul's questions sullenly timing, some drowned secret hissing to the outsetting bard, demon or bird, the boy's soul said. Is it indeed toward your mate you sing, or is it really to me? For I, that was a child, my tongue's use sleeping, now I have heard you. Now in a moment I know what I am for. I awake, and already 1,000 singers, 1,000 songs, 1,000 warbling echoes have started to life within me, never to cease. Oh, you singer solitary, projecting me, oh, solitary me listening, never more shall I cease perpetuating you, never more shall I escape, never more the reverberations, never more the cries of unsatisfied love be absent from me. Never again leave me to be the child I was before, what there in the night by the sea, under the lagging and yellow moon, the messenger there aroused, the fire, the sweet hell within, the unknown want, the destiny of me. Oh, give me the clue. It lurks in the night somewhere. Oh, if I am to have so much, let me have more. A word then, for I will conquer it. The word final, superior to all, subtle, sent up. Are you whispering it, you sea waves? Is that it from your liquid rims and wet sands? Where to the sea, delaying not, hurrying not, whispered me through the night, and very plainly at daybreak lisped to me the low and delicious word, death. And again, death. Evermore. Death. 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 Hissing melodious, neither like the bird nor like my aroused child's heart, but edging near, as privately for me, rustling at my feet, and creeping thence steadily up to my ears, and laving me softly all over. Death. 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 Which I do not forget, but fuse the song of my dusky demon and brother that he sang for me in the moonlight on Palmanic's gray shore, with 1,000 responsive songs at random. My own songs, awaked from that hour, and with them the key, the strong and delicious word, which, creeping to my feet, or like some old crony rocking the cradle, swathed in sweet garments, bending aside, the sea whispered me. All righty. 15-year-old, 14-year-old. So for me, reciting that poem puts me there on the shore of Palmanic with the child, because I think the beauty of that poem, largely the beauty of that poem, is the rhythms created by the words and the images of the sea, the moon, the wind. So that's, I think, just a wonderful poem. It's regarded as one of Whitman's masterpieces. Poem was written in 1959 when Whitman was 40 years old. So he's looking back at his childhood after 40 years. Now, the Lilac poem, of course, was written in 1865 after Lincoln's death. So in that stretch of 5 to 6 years during the Civil War, death was all over. Death was a huge thing. So as far as the context of this poem goes, Whitman made a practice of visiting the sick in the hospitals in Washington, D.C. during the war. His brother had been wounded in the war. His brother was a soldier. And when he went to visit his brother and saw the conditions in the hospitals, he repeatedly went to visit the sick and the wounded. And he was obviously a very compassionate man. He would write letters home to their families. He would hold their hands. He would read to them. I mean, an estimable man from what we know of him. When Lincoln was killed, he was in New York. He had taken a sort of a sabbatical, a respite from the war and from the hospital. And that's where he got word that Lincoln had been assassinated. He revered Abraham Lincoln. And you can tell because he left prose as well. And you can tell in the prose that he revered Lincoln. So now in this poem, one should imagine oneself in a rural situation, whether or not it's Long Island, it might be Brooklyn, in a rural area. And Whitman is alone and he's grieving. And there are three natural elements that are affecting his consciousness. One being the lilac, of course, the scent of the lilac in the spring. For him, a powerful scent. And he refers to the lilac returning in the spring as what reminds him of the death of Lincoln. For me, it's the same way, because I revere this poem so much. The other is what he calls the Western Star. So you will hear him refer to the Western Star in the sky. Scholars have called it Venus, which is a planet, not a star, but it shows up early in the night sky, and it's a very bright body. And the third is the bird, the hermit thrush, whose notes, whose song he translates. And just like in the last poem, you cannot mistake the translation of this. It's called the Death's Carol, Death's Carol. So the thrush is off in the swamp, and he can hear the thrush singing. And it's affecting his soul. And he refers to the Western Star as his comrade. He's communing with the comrade, and all the while the scent of the lilacs is affecting him. So if you know that, you can follow the poem pretty well. This poem is more linear, a linear narrative than the last poem. So anything else I need to tell you? Probably not. Okay. Oh, let me say this. because this sometimes I think throws people off, and it did with me when I first encountered this poem. The second verse of this poem is an expression of the profound grief Whitman is feeling, and he's addressing to heavens. Okay. When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, and the great star early drooped in the western sky in the night, I mourned, and yet shall mourn with ever-returning spring. O ever-returning spring, Trinity sure to me you bring, lilac blooming perennial, and drooping star in the west, and thought of him I love. O powerful western fallen star, O shades of night, O moody, tearful night, O great star disappeared, O the black murk that hides the star, O cruel hands that hold me powerless, O helpless soul of me, O harsh surrounding cloud that will not free my soul. In the dooryard of an old farmhouse, near the whitewashed palings, stands the lilac bush, tall growing, with heart-shaped leaves of rich green, with many a pointed blossom rising delicate, with the perfume strong I love. And from this bush in the dooryard, with delicate colored flowers and heart-shaped leaves of rich green, a sprig with its blossoms I break. In the swamp, in secluded recesses, a shy and hidden bird is warbling a song. Solitary the thrush, the hermit withdrawn to himself, avoiding the settlements, sings by himself a song. Song of the bleeding throat, death's outlet, song of life. For well, dear brother, I know, if thou wast not gifted to sing, thou wouldst surely die. Over the breast of the spring, the land, amid cities, amid lanes and through old woods, where lately violets peeped from the ground, spotting the gray debris, amid the grass of the fields, each side of the lanes, passing the endless grass, passing the yellow-speared wheat, every grain from its shroud in the dark brown field uprising, Passing the apple tree blows of white and pink in the orchards, carrying a corpse to where it shall rest in the grave, night and day journeys a coffin. Coffin that passes through lanes and streets, through day and night, with the great cloud darkening the land, with the pomp of the enlooped flags and the cities draped in black, with the show of the states themselves as of crape-veiled women standing, with processions long and winding, and the flambeaux of the night, with the countless torches lit, and the silent sea of faces and the unbared heads, with the waiting depot, the arriving coffin, and the somber faces, with dirges through the night, with all the morning voices poured upon the dirges, the dim-lit cities and the shuddering organs, with the tolling bells' perpetual clang. Here, coffin that slowly passes, I give you my sprig of lilac. Not for you, for one alone. Blossoms and branches green to coffins all I bring. For fresh as the morning, thus would I carol a song for you, O sane and sacred death, all over bouquets of roses, roses and early lilies, but mostly, and now, the lilac that blooms the first. Copious I break the sprigs from the branches, with loaded arms I come, pouring for you, and the coffins, all of you, O death. O westward warp sailing the heavens, now I know what you must have meant as a month since we walked, as we walked up and down in the dark blue, so mystic, as we walked together the transparent and shadowy night. For I saw you had something to tell, as you bent to me night after night, as you drooped from the sky low down, as if to my side, while the other stars all looked on, as we wandered together the solemn night, for something, I know not what, kept me from sleep. As the night advanced, and I saw on the rim of the west how full you were of woe, as I stood on the rising ground in the breeze, in the cold, transparent night, as I saw where you passed and was lost in the netherwood black of the night, as my soul in its trouble dissatisfied sank, as where you, sad orb, concluded, dropped in the night, and was gone. Sing on there in the swamp, O singer bashful and tender. I hear your notes, I hear your call, I come presently. But a moment I linger, for the lustrous star has detained me. The star, my departing comrade, holds and detains me. Oh, how shall I warble myself for the dead one there I loved? And how should I spread my song for the large, sweet soul that is gone? And what shall my perfume be for the grave of him I love? Sea winds blown from east and west, blown from the eastern sea and blown from the western sea, till there on the prairies meeting, these and with these and the breath of my chant, I'll perfume the grave of him I love. And what shall I hang on the chamber walls? And what shall the pictures be that I hang on the walls to adorn the burial house of him I love? Pictures of growing spring and farms and homes, and the 4th month eve at sundown with the gray smoke, lucid and bright, with floods of the yellow gold of the gorgeous, indolent, sinking sun, with the fresh, sweet herbage underfoot and the pale green leaves of the trees prolific. In the distance, the flowing glades, the breast of the river, with a wind dapple here and there, with many a line against the sky, and shadows, and the cities at hand, with dwellings so dense, and stacks of chimneys, and all the scenes of life, and the workshops, and workmen homeward, returning. Lo, body and soul, this land, mighty Manhattan with spires, the sparkling and hurrying tides, and the ships, the varied and ample land, the south and the north in the light, Ohio's shores and flashing Missouri, and ever the far-spreading prairies covered with grass and corn. Lo, the most indolent sun, so calm and haughty, the violet and purple morn with just felt breezes, the miracle spreading, bathing all, the full-filled noon, the coming eve delicious, the restless night, and the stars over my cities shining all, enveloping man and land. Sing on, you gray-brown bird. Sing from the swamp, from recesses. Pour forth your chant from the bushes, limitless, out of the dusk, out of the cedars and pines. Sing on, dearest brother, warble your reedy song, loud human song, with voice of uttermost woe. Oh, liquid and free and tender, oh, wild and loose to my soul, oh, wondrous singer, you only I hear, yet the star holds me, but will soon depart. Yet the lilac, with mastering odor, holds me. Now as I sat in the day and looked forth, at the close of the day with its light, and the fields of spring, and the farmer preparing his crops, in the large unconscious scenery of my land with its lakes and forests, in the heavenly aerial beauty, after the perturbed winds and the storms, under the arching heavens of the afternoon swift passing, with the voices of children and women, the many moving sea tides, and I saw the ships, how they sailed, and the summer approaching in richness, and the fields all busy with labor, the infinite separate houses, how they all went on, each with its meals and minutiae of daily usages. And the streets, how their proddings prod, the city pent, lo, then and there, falling upon them all, and among them all, enveloping me with the rest, appeared the cloud, appeared the long black trail, and I knew death, its thought, and the sacred knowledge of death. Then with the knowledge of death, as of walking one side of me, and the thought of death close walking the other side of me, and I in the middle, as with companions, and as holding the hands of companions, I fled forth to the hiding, receiving night that talks not, down to the shores of the water, the path by the swamp in the dimness, to the solemn, shadowy cedars, and the lonely pines so still. And the singer, so shy to the rest, received me. The gray-brown bird I know received us comrades three, and he sang the carol of death and a verse to him I love. From deep secluded recesses, from the fragrant cedars and the ghostly pines so still, came the carol of the bird, and the charm of the carol wrapped me as I held, as if by their hands, my comrades in the night. The voice of my spirit tallied the song of the bird. Come, lovely and lovely death. Well, that's a mess. Come, lovely death. Receive me around the world. Eternally arriving, in the day, in the night, sooner or later, delicate death. Praised be the fathomless universe, for life and joy, and for objects and knowledge curious, and for love, sweet love. But praise, praise, praise for the sure and winding arms of cool and folding death. Dark mother always approaching on soft feet. Have none chanted for thee a chant of surest pleasure? Then I chant it for thee. I glorify thee above all. I bring thee a song that when you must indeed come unfalteringly. Approach, strong deliveress. When it is so, when thou hast taken them, I joyously sing the dead, wrapped in the loving flowing ocean of thee, laved in the flood of thy bliss, O death. From me to thee glad serenades, dances for thee I propose, saluting thee, adornments and feastings for thee, and the sights of the open landscape and the high-spread skies are fitting, and life and the fields and the huge unthoughtful night, the night in silence under many a star, the ocean's shore and the husky whispering wave whose voice I know, the soul turning toward thee, O vast and well-hailed death, and the body gently nestling close to thee. Over the treetops I float thee a song, over the wild and hurrying waves, over the myriad fields and the prairies wide, over the dense-packed cities all and the teeming wharves and ways. I float this carol with joy to thee, O death. To the tally of my soul, loud and long, kept up the gray-brown bird, with pure, deliberate notes, spreading, filling the night, loud in the pines and the cedars, dim, clear in the freshness moist and the swamp perfume, and I with my comrades there in the night. And my sight, that was bound in my eyes, unclosed, as to long panoramas of visions. I saw ascant the armies. I saw, as in noiseless dreams, hundreds of battle flags, borne through the smoke of the battles and pierced with missiles. I saw them and carried hither and yon through the smoke and torn and bloody, and at last but a few shreds left on the staffs, and all in silence, and the staffs all splintered and broken. I saw the skeletons of young men. I saw they were not as was thought. They themselves were fully at rest. They suffered not. The living remained and suffered. The mother suffered, and the wife, and the child, and the musing comrades suffered. The armies that remained suffered. Passing the visions, passing the night, passing, unloosing the hold of my comrade's hands, passing the song of the hermit bird and the tallying song of my soul. Victorious song, death's outlet song, yet varying, ever altering song, as low and wailing, yet clear the notes, rising and falling, flooding the night, sadly sinking and waning, as morning and morning, and yet again bursting with joy. As that powerful psalm I heard from the night in recesses. Passing, I leave thee, lilac, with heart-shaped leaves. I leave thee, there in the dooryard, blooming, returning with spring. I cease from my song for thee, from my gaze on thee in the west, fronting the west, communing with thee, O comrade lustrous, with silver face in the night, yet each I keep, and all. Retrievements out of the night, the song, the wondrous chant of the gray-brown bird, and the tallying chant, the echo aroused in my soul. With the lustrous and drooping cloud, with the countenance full of woe, with the lilac tall and its blossoms of mastering odor, with the holders holding my hand, nearing the call of the bird, comrades mine and I in the mist, and it's their memories ever I keep, for the dead I loved so well, for the sweetest, wisest soul of all my days and lands, and this for his dear sake. Lilac and star and bird, twined with the chant of my soul, there in the fragrant pines and the cedars, dusk and dim. I've always said, when you approach a piece of art or a piece of theater especially, the way to approach it is to see it performed first, then return to it. And you will find more and more in it every time you return to it. So thank you all for coming. Say again? He saw him once in passing, according to his prose. Lincoln was traveling. He had a place in the summer where he stayed, not at the White House. And he took a carriage back and forth. And Whitman mentions in the prose that he saw Lincoln once in the carriage. Okay? He hated that poem. He thought that poem was frivolous. Yeah, too trite.